Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 720. My opponent here was Super Grandpatzer 69, who's one of the viewers of the channel. And he kicked off with d4. He had challenged me to this match earlier, so I'd set it up. So I was recording already when we started the game. And I played c4 here. I played c6. So I was just going to play something solid, this being a new opponent. Didn't know what his level was. But he played knight c3. Of course, this is inviting the Winawer gambit, e5. You see that's the fourth choice on the list. It's maybe not. You can continue in solid lines with knight f6 and e6, or go for the exchange with d takes c4. It's kind of the classical Slav line where you take. But the Winawer gambit is interesting. And he takes on d5 first, which is not the most common response, but it's playable. And then he played e3. So you can see this is also still in the opening book, although normally they will continue to take on e5 and go for the gambit here. So those are all lines I'm familiar with. But this particular combination of first trading and then playing e3, let's back up a little bit. I have seen that move e3 before, but it's been on move 4. If white just plays e3 here to support the center, then I play d5. And I guess they could transpose if they take here. And this leads to a structure sort of like well, even in the game, this leads to a structure that's a lot like the French defense with colors reversed. So this is the advanced variation of the French defense, but with the colors reversed, so white has an extra tempo. And these pawns are always a little bit fragile when you're playing against the French defense. Say if I had white here and I had played the advanced variation, and I played the French defense myself, so I know that the strategy is often to undermine these pawns here. And Super Grandpatzer here plays in a way that it's very similar to how I would have played. You play this knight here to here, bring the queen here. But I just did not react to this plan very well. So let's see. Instead of e4, I could have steered this game into different channels by taking. And this leads to kind of an even game. So I think this is not the refutation of the Winawer gambit. This is, if you want to refute the Winawer gambit, you need to accept it and play that position. So for example, say knight f6. Knight e2. I just wanted to show the chess engine's idea of how to play this position. It wants to put the knight on e2, wants to play pawn to g3 and put the bishop on g2 and use that to increase the pressure on the d pawn here. But this position is basically about even, so it should be no problem for black, although it'd be hard for black to play for an advantage here. So e4 in a way is a little more ambitious, and it's still a playable move, but I do have to be careful, as I mentioned, because these pawns are a bit fragile. So anyway, white went knight e2, I went knight c6. All this is okay. Knight f4, knight f6. So I'm defending the pawn and holding on to things. And now it plays queen to b3, and things have reached kind of a critical point. And I actually spent a minute on this move and then blundered. And the thing is, I didn't see any good way to defend it. So first of all, I considered bishop e6, which is often an idea, defending this way. And if you don't mind so much giving up this bishop pair, if black chooses to take there. But the problem here is that the b7 pawn is hanging. In fact, white wouldn't bother trading that bishop off, and probably just take here, and then the knight's hanging. And this position is just bad. So I rejected that. There's a possible defense with knight to e7, but this is a bad way to defend too, because I am defending it. Got two knights and a queen on it, but my bishop is blocked in, and this is going to take me a while to untangle. So this leads to a pretty significant white advantage as well. So I kind of gave up on looking for ways to defend the pawn, and ended up playing b6 and just giving up the pawn. But there were two defenses here that I could have considered that I didn't. And So just shows things I need to work on as a chess player. One is bishop b4, pinning the knight. I guess if he kicks the bishop, I'm going to have to take. Yeah, that's not entirely true. Actually, I could retreat because his queen is blocking the b pawn, so he can't unpin immediately. So that's one way to play it, and that would leave me with a playable game. But the best way, and the favorite of the chess engine, is to play knight to a5. So you just bring the knight out here and kick the queen off this diagonal, and you do it at a moment when this pawn is still defended by the knight, so the queen can't escape by by taking the pawn, and has to go away from this diagonal. And I'm back to the situation where my pawn is adequately defended. In fact, the chess engine thinks that queen to c2 rather is the best move here, and then I just play like bishop e7, continue with my development, and things should be fine here. It's about equal. Maybe white still has an opening advantage, but anyway, nothing too horrible has gone wrong. And if white tries to play a little more ambitiously, like with bishop to b5 check, this just doesn't lead anywhere. It leads to a bunch of exchanges. This bishop interpose here, and now his queen is still hanging, and his bishop is hanging, so he's got to exchange to escape. And then the chess engine actually gives queen to b5 as the best move here. So this leads to a position which is, a whole lot of nothing. The king has to come over here to d7 to stop the knight fork. But other than that, this is basically a completely even position. So those were two ways I could have defended against the threats in this position, either bishop b4 or knight to a5, with knight to a5 being the better choice. And I didn't find either of them, and I end up playing b6. And now I'm losing here. He could grab the pawn right away, but he throws in bishop to b5, which is okay. It doesn't give up anything really. that pawn is still hanging, and I have to deal with this this threat to my knight. And I played bishop to d7, which has some logic to it. I didn't want this knight to be pinned forever. But it turns out that bishop d7 actually loses a second pawn. So if I want to limit the damage to one pawn, I actually have to play bishop to b7. And let's see, he could grab the pawn now. Let's see, and after I trade, he could take with either the queen or the knight. And this is just a position where I'm a pawn down. Let's see, rook to d8. I can try and activate my pieces, but white is doing fine here, and white is a pawn up. So that would be best play. Bishop to d7 allows him to take with this with the f-pawn. Well, he could have taken with the f-pawn in the other line, but well, the difference is my queen is no longer looking at that square. This bishop has unpinned my knight, but at the same time it's blocked my queen's view of the of this square. So if I take the knight now, then he can take back with the queen, and this pawn is hanging. There's no way to save it, whereas at the other line I could trade off the queen. So anyway, I didn't see any point in taking the knight, exchanging more material. I tried to unwind a little bit with bishop d6, and this is actually an okay move under the circumstances. Basically, I'm already 2 pawns down no matter what I do, and I ought to just activate my pieces and go for some kind of counterplay. But white just plays this really well. He takes off this knight with check. That's the problem, is that goes with tempo, and then he can grab the e-pawn. So there was just no saving that second pawn. And let's see, I placed my queen over here, and he takes off another piece. And let's see, both sides castle. Yeah, he castled first, I castled. And I went with, oh no, it's his turn. He went with bishop d2, getting his last minor piece developed. I placed my rook on c8, good active square. He went queen a4, piling up on the knight. And I went queen g6. I had this tactical idea. Well, what else are you going to play for but tricks in this kind of position, where I would bring the bishop out here as a way to unpin my knight. I was starting to feel like that was kind of an awkward pin on the knight, but I had overlooked something. He played rook f to c8. I went bishop to h3 as I had planned. Well, first of all, before we show that disaster, I'm still in trouble here. Let's see, rook f to d8 is recommended, and he can just start piling up on the c-file with rook to c3, and the chess engine says I need to sacrifice another pawn here to try and unwind. So things are difficult. You know, the pressure on that bishop is pretty severe. The pin on the knight. So there's no real good answer, but this loses immediately, because what I completely overlooked is that when he takes on c6, he's defending the mate threat. So I just have given up that piece, and I take here in the hope that maybe he'll take back with the rook and I can mate him. But of course he takes back with the queen, and it's all over. I'm just a rook down here. Let's see, I played bishop to e6, and he played another move here. Yeah, he played a3, so he doesn't have to do anything very special. He's just, I suppose, moving the pawn out of the way so he can bring the other rook into the game. And so I just resigned at this point. So kind of a quick disaster, but it was a fun game with some interesting tactics. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.